Hello, advanced pre-calc. So we are going to be starting section 9.1 on circles and parabolas, the two first conic sections that you learned in AAT. So first, we're going to talk about the circle equation. So the standard circle equation is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Now your center of the circle is given to be your h and your k. And your r stands for your radius, so you would have to take the square root to find it. Now, this formula came about by using the distance formula and your radius with your given center and a given point on a circle. So the distance formula is taking the x's of the point and the center, squaring it, adding it to subtracting the y value of the point and the center, squaring it. So if we were to square both sides to get rid of the radical, you would then get the equation of the standard circle. So we're just going to do a couple of examples. The first one is you're given the center is 2, 5, and you're given a point on the circle, and we're going to find our r. So we can either use the equation of the circle first to plug in our x, our y, h, and our k, and then solve for r, or we could just straight plug it into the r equation with the square root. So that you don't have to memorize both because they're exactly the same. I'm just going to be taking my regular standard equation. So it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So that's just -9 squared. Sorry. My k was 5. Plus pi squared equals r squared. 81 plus 25 equals r squared. R squared then equals 106. So then r is equal to the square root of 106. If you're able to reduce that, you do want to reduce it if you can in radical form only, never a decimal. Okay. So radical form, no decimal. Now we're going to set up the equation with your center and your radius. So my center is my h and k. So I'm going to have x minus my h squared plus y minus my k squared equals r squared. So the square root of 106 squared is just 106. So now we have our equation of our circle, and we know the radius of that circle. Next one is we're going to write the equation of a translated circle. So if we move it around the graph, and we shifted it 4 to the left and 3 up. So for a circle, we know that the size of the circle doesn't change. It stays the same size, but what's moving is going to be where the center is. So my given center is my h and k. So my h is the 2 and my k is the -1. So if my center is at 2, -1, and I shifted it 4 to the left and 3 up, that means that I'll be subtracting 4 on my x value and adding 3 on my y value. Right, so my new center is going to be at -2, +2. So this is the one that we're going to be using to set up our equation of the new circle. So equation of translated circle will now be x plus the 2 squared plus y minus the k squared equals the 9. So you see the radius still stays the same. It's only the center that has shifted. Again, it was 4 to the left, so we subtracted 4 from the 2 to get -2, and 3 up, so we added 3 to the -1 to get the +2. So those two, the -2 and the +2, are now our new H and K. Okay. Next is the last one for our equation of our circle is to change an expanded form into your standard form. So we have to use completing the square. And because there's two variables, we're going to complete the square on our x's and complete the squares on our y's. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the problem just so that the x's are together and the y terms are together. Then just looking at my x's, I'm going to take out what's common because we want to only complete the square with an x squared. So I'm going to be able to take out a 2 out of just the x's. And this is where my setup of my completing the square will begin. I'm going to be able to take out a 2 out of the y's. And again, this is another blank space. Okay. Now, just like before, remember, if you take out a 2, you have to place the 2 back in on the other side with the blank space to balance it out. And we actually have 2 blank spaces, and we took out 2 out of the x's and the y's. We're going to fill in that blank space now with the b over 2, and we square it. So remember, this part here is b over 2, and we square it. So our b in this case is the 12. Here. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 squared is 36. So we're going to place a 36 in that blank space and a 36 in that blank space. We're going to do the same thing for the second blank space. My b is the 4. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is another 4, and then another 4 here. Now that we completed the square, that means that we're able to factor that trinomial into a perfect square. So this factors into x minus 6 squared. This factors into y plus 2 squared. And then we just simplify the right side. 16 plus 2 times the 36 plus the 2 times 4 is 96. Okay. Now for an equation of the circle, we don't have these coefficients in front of the binomials. So we're going to be able to divide everything by 2. So we're left with x minus 6 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 48. So here's my equation, and I'm now able to state what my center is and what my radius is. Now 48, it can be reduced, right? The biggest common, the biggest square is 16. So we could take out a 4, and we have a 3 left over. So my center is at 6, -2, and my radius is at 4 square root 3. Okay. I'm going to stop here to make the other video so that I could separate the circles and the parabolas.